Every time Lord appears, like he himself says in the Bhagavad Gita, he comes here to make corrections. Krishna came and then he saw that there are certain problems with the way that human beings are dealing with cows. Cows are his own instrument to cater to the universal order. Krishna says, Gachan, Swapan, Shwasan, Unmishan, Nimishan, Napi. Every small activity we have to perceive that it is the Lord who is making us do it and who is directly present here. So that presence of God, I think it's very pivotal, it's very crucial for us to actually absorb and understand the message of the Shastras and practice it.
Hi, welcome to KC Talks. We know who is Krishna, but many of us think we understand the activities of Krishna. But Swamiji has a special way in revealing the truth of what Krishna actually did in this world. Let us understand from him about Krishna and his activities. Hare Srinivasa, Swamiji. Last night you told about one shloka. So, what is that shloka?
Just that it's a very popular slogan. People say, Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Every time Lord appears, like he himself says in the Bhagavad Gita, he comes here to make corrections. And it's a popular slogan, Martyavatarastviha Martya Shikshanam. He comes among human beings to educate the human beings. So when he sees that there are some gross errors, then he comes here to give a correction. He says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glani hi bhavati. When there is a glani, sambhavami atmaya, then I come by my own desire.
What does glani mean, Swamiji?
Glani means that when there is a disruption of Dharma. So, you see, for instance, in the Vishnu sahsranama, we find Gohito, Gopati, Gopta, Vrishabhaksho, Vrishapriyaha. So, definitely the Lord is seen as someone who loves the cows. Gohitaha, Gopati, Gopta. So, some may be led to think that maybe Rama was not as interested in cows as Krishna is. Just from what is apparent, that we don't hear much of Rama grazing cows.
Yes.
But the truth is, Rama didn't involve so much, or the Rama's grazing of cows are not mentioned so explicitly because there was no correction that the society of that time needed in that regard. Krishna came and then he saw that there are certain problems with the way that human beings are dealing with cows. Cows are his own instrument to cater to the universal order. Actually, the cow becomes important in human life because, you see, we owe to everyone from whom we have received a benefit. We are benefited from every species of life. Species which are in the soil, which belong to animals, and also the species which are of the realm of the devas. So, how do we give back to each one of them? So the cow becomes such a creature that helps us to connect with both these worlds. So Krishna, he saw that the human beings are not dealing with the cows in the way that they should for various reasons. He found various faults. In fact, the Madhva Vijaya opens like this. Anakulam Gokula Mullalasa. It has a shlesha. Gokula there also means the Vedas and also as much means the cows, because simultaneously Vedavyasa and Krishna both are being glorified in that verse. This is the second verse of Madhva Vijaya, the opening verse. It is part of the Mangalacharana of Madhva Vijaya Grantha. Anakulam Gokulam Ullalasa. So Gokula was actually Vyakula. It was suffering when Krishna came. And then he did in such a way that he showed people how to deal with the cows. And then because of his touch, because of his corrections, and because of the way that he himself involved and showed people by example that this is how you graze the cows, this is how you deal with the cows. So much so that when he dealt with those cows, people perceived that calves which were just 1 month old looked like they were 1 year old, because he gave that connect between the calf and the mother. And he gave that connect between the cow and the earth. The earth had gone to him in the form of a cow, asking him to descend, to help her to do bhara, so that she could support the bhara that she has. So Krishna, one of the reasons that he came is explained mostly as Bhubhara Harana. And how he did that, we can understand in several ways. But definitely, the first thing he did in this regard is to show how to take care of the cows.
So, Swamiji, every time, every avathara, Bhudevi goes as a cow only to pray to Vishnu.
No, it was during this avatar.
Rama, it wasn't like that.
No, Rama was the whole event of Rama descending was slightly different. Of course, it follows a general structure that there is somebody praying. It's either Brahma or it's either some other deva.
So only for Krishna, it is Bhu who went in the form of cow. So
Yes.
this incident happened only for Krishna.
Yes, yes,
Krishna's incarnation only it happened.
yes.
No other incarnation this incident happened.
Yes, you could say that in general, but always, in the expanse of the Shastras, it might have happened to some other form of Lord in some other yuga.
No,
which
but
we
in
are,
general,
but in general, we
yes,
could
this is
say
explicitly we discussed
that. We
this.
could say that safely.
So the first course correction to do the Bhuharana, he has corrected
Bhubhara Harana.
Bhubhara Harana.
Yes.
So he did the correction in this regard is the
way
course correction
that
of-
the cow has to be kept in contact with the
that's the
earth.
first correction.
Because
that he's
he
doing.
even didn't attend to his parents who were imprisoned by Kamsa. He attended to them later.
Yes, you told us in
Yes.
the last
And in the
podcast.
course of doing that, he also cleansed by killing the demons who had entered into various species with the intent of disrupting the universal order.
Yes, so cow care is the first action that Krishna has taken care of.
In regard of Bhubhara Harana.
Oh, very nice. So this
He-
is nobody explicitly speak about this like that, no?
Yes, and actually the way, the reasons why people began to actually mistreat the cow are also very evident from Harivamsha Purana and from Bhagavata also. The
But,
Harivamsha Purana especially mentions that the brajavasis, they wanted to appease Kamsa. As it naturally happens amongst the subjects of kings, they would like to appease their king so that they may get favors of the king. And that is the reason that Harivamsha mentions why the Brahmanas didn't feed Krishna.
Brahmanas did not feed Krishna.
When Krishna went along with his friends, and they first asked the Brahmanas who were sitting in Yajna that Krishna himself has come. So they had prepared their Havishyana and other things to offer in the Yajna. But then the very deity of the Yajna himself is there.
Yeah.
And he wants to. They denied him because it mentions that because of their affiliation with Kamsa.
Oh, even Brahmanas were affiliated
Yes.
to Kamsa.
But that was not the case with their wives. And that is why Krishna sent them again. You ask their wives now. And then he was well attended by them. So we see that there was a problem like this because Kamsa himself is a demon, but they saw him as a king. And it had become a fad like we saw in the 1980s and 90s also in southern India and mostly northern India also. People had a great craze of getting a government job for their children. Everyone wanted a government job. So the same thing was seen there also, that people had an obsession about being employed in Kamsa's government.
Sarkari job.
Yes. So Krishna saw this as a big disruption because the whole way of cow grazing, it has a certain mood and it has a certain it is done in a way that is spirited. So he saw the loss of that spirit because of this kind of an involvement, and so he restored that spirit.
So as
cow grazing.
Harivamsha explicitly tells that to appease Kamsa,
Yes.
the entire brajavasis were acting. So
Yes.
you are inferring that appeasing Kamsa is coming by not taking care of the calves and cows and not giving.
Oh, there were many mistakes that they did because of this requirement to appease Kamsa. That
One
would
of-
be considered normal among subjects, that they want to appease their king by whatever they have to offer. But then the problem here was that Kamsa himself was a demon who headed many other demons, whom Krishna killed, of course, as and when they appeared in the Braja.
But it is quite. So, see, I'm just asking you as a layman question, Swamiji. So, but brajavasis are supposed to be so-called devotees of the Lord, and they are supposed to be exalted souls. How can they fall in trap with pleasing Kamsa, or even that grossest mistake like you and I today? You are a different person, but at least me and the world can understand that if a kid is deprived of the mother's milk, it is very, very adharma. No.
Great big people. This actually, people would be. You're right in asking that question, because it is natural for people to, and especially in the areas of Raja, I think a statement like this would lead to a lot of unrest. But one thing becomes very clear to us is when we go through directly, when we get in touch with the actual Mahabharata, Bhagavata, we see that many mistakes are done by great people. Bhishma is a great soul, yet he stole the cow of Vasishta just on the prompting of his wife. Isn't that? Would you do that?
No, that is not. Even the Draupadi Vastraparana also very unimaginable to this today's world.
No, but this happened in the realm of the Devas. Bhishma stealing the cow of Vasishta didn't happen on the earthly realm.
On the Bhu, it happened.
Yes. Ashwathama killed the sons of the Pandavas when they were asleep. Vali called Rama a spoilt brat. Arjuna told Krishna that you are leading us to sin. Nakula told Krishna that don't play the evil role of the third person who takes pleasure in the fight between brothers.
He said that?
Yes. So we see that even great people do mistakes, and doing mistakes is common in this world. And Krishna comes to correct.
Should we understand like that it is a leela of Krishna that these
That is another. It's interesting that you brought that up. But that's another beautiful way to understand that these exalted people are not ultimately people who are prone to commit mistakes.
Such gross mistakes at
as
least.
Such. But the Lord wanted to show that it's okay, because the first thing that covers us when we do mistakes is guilt. And that guilt makes us disconnect from our sense of responsibility to Dharma. It even prompts us from within to in the form of a failure in pursuit of Dharma.
So see, I'm then asking it like as a plain.
So it could happen. I just want to say that it could happen. That it could also be a drama, like you just mentioned, that played between Krishna and these great souls. But definitely they showcased these mistakes, and the Lord corrected them. And that has lessons for the human beings.
Yes.
And I think rather than trying to evaluate whether those beings are exalted or not, it would benefit us much more if we took the lesson that they are conveying. The point here is not to establish whether Vali or Arjuna are evil. They are definitely not evil. They are very exalted souls. So we have to take the lesson that Krishna is teaching us through them. That's the whole point.
Makes a lot of sense. So at least for the harmony of brajavasis and Gaudiya Vaishnavas, Vallabhas and everybody, we can perceive it like it can be one, some Mayandhakara has happened on the brajavasis, that they were grossly misled, and then Krishna is showing the world by correcting them.
Yes, Krishna made them the medium of communicating to the world.
Very nice. And another important point is you have one very peculiar understanding of cows, understanding of land, understanding of organized grazing, which I am highly impressed about. And I have told many times to the people that if I am able to understand organic farming today, or I am able to understand clean food, that is all because you are making us see that Krishna actually did that.
Well, in the world today, I would have to point out that mostly planned grazing and the profound effect that grazing has on the earth, on the ground, on the soil, these were brought to focus by a man who is famous as Alan Severy. And of course, he has every right to take credit for his wonderful accomplishments all over the world in turning many desertified lands into green lands. And now I guess there is a Severy hub in almost every state of the United States. But if we look into our Shastras, we can find that a greater work has been done by Krishna. And even the presence of grasslands reserved for the grazing of cows that we find in the peripheral areas of almost every village and city in India, all the way from Kashmir to the south. That system, I think it came so much in place after Krishna's time, because Krishna established certain principles. And when he established certain principles, it was non-negotiable, in the sense if someone didn't accept it, he killed them. So this is the way Krishna established Dharma. He was very assertive about the Dharma.
Whatever you say to me, I find it logical, because I understand what carbon content of the soil is, how grazing benefits the soil, how organized grazing increases the carbon content of the soil. So at least, for a person to appreciate that, he has to have a basic, knowledge. A person who is completely layman cannot appreciate this. He said, what is the Swamiji speaking about organized grazing? What is the
Well,
impact?
there's an interesting point I see the need to mention here, that someone amongst us from the Indians, they took the trouble to communicate it to Severi that Krishna in India
Did that work?
has done this job, what you're doing now.
Oh,
And Severi's response to that was, I don't think so, it was so thorough.
oh.
So that means that we have a lot of work to do, because we need to really go through these
No,
shastras.
but as a Swamiji, I want to ask you a very straight, strong question. All the Swamijis are concentrating on telling bhava, rasa, Krishna, chanting holy names, Vishnu sahsranama, all these things. You people are, you have taken that marketing work of spreading Lord's name. But why was it not explicitly told in the last at least 40, 50 years of this degeneration soil that we have been seeing? The carbon content of the soil from almost 8-9% to 0.25% today. Why is it that the Swamijis have not explicitly told that grazing cows is that important point of Krishna that we have to learn? More than chanting his
You
names.
see, the privilege that we have when it comes to the Puranas is that we get to look into the hoary past. And when we look into the past, man's knowledge has never been of a linear progressive model. It has always been up. There has always been ups and downs, and there were eras of deep darkness, which we wouldn't even be able to comprehend today, imagine today. There have been ages of cruelty, which we will be able to understand if we go through the Mahabharata, the Shastras, the Puranas. So in the awareness of that kind of a history, I think it's easy to see that it was another age of darkness.
No, but you people
there's always-
during
there's
independence.
always-
See, but my question is straight.
Yeah.
Swamijis, your gurus, your guru, all you people lived for last 1,000 years, at least 800 years in the Madhu Sampradaya.
Okay.
But how much emphasis that you people have given to Vishnu Sahasranama, emphasis of giving to the deity worship, emphasis given to the mantra, chanting. Why this cow care, grazing were not, pronounced properly?
Because departure from the, like I said, Madhva Vijaya begins with Anakulam Gokulam Ullalasa. Krishna is a person who is seen as who restored the happiness of the cows. And that was, of course, in connection with the well-being of the earth. But this became common knowledge. Everyone tended to cows. And there's also a famous way of ridiculing a person if he's not good at something professional. People are used to say, Hog Danakai, means in Kannada they say, go and graze the cow. You're good for nothing.
In Telugu also they say that.
Yes. So this saying, we also see a similar saying in Vadiraja's Yukti Mallika, wherein almost he's dismissive about somebody's intellect, and he uses cow grazing, that you go and graze cows, you're good for only that.
Is it what Vadiraj also says?
In Yukti Mallika you find a phrase like that. So, but I think there is a very big difference in the sense that it was understood deeply as a dismissive phrase, because cow grazing is something that everyone engaged. A person would be ready for the society to rely on him to deliver to the society at a certain level. So it takes several years of preparation for whatever occupation it is that he is training for. So they used to train to perfection over several years with a lot of practice and a lot of pain. But before they reach those levels of professionalism or those levels of mastery, they all in one or the other way engaged in cow grazing. And cow grazing, it carried that attitude in which one performs any swadharma. So you do something in common. It is something like the stem cells in the body. They say that it can become cell anyway. So like this attitude that is cultivated by cow grazing, that nourishes any occupation.
So every person
would do cow, including the king. And Dharma Shastra mentions that unless a king grazes cows for several months, there's a specific time, there's a specific duration of time for which he's required to do that. He doesn't qualify to sit on the throne. So and we also see so many stories how the students who learnt Vedas in the Gurukula, how they tended to cows as part of their routine, as part of their services in the Gurukula. So you see, that difference in sense was that everyone had a sense that I need to deliver by my swadharma. And this sense made them feel that when I don't have a mastery in my own swadharma to deliver, then I do something which delivers well, but it doesn't require that mastery. And until I get that mastery, I do this because that is the commonality that I carry into my occupation and into my life.
Oh, so you mean to say that it is not a belittling statement,
No.
rather it is a statement where...
Because we understand because we very little understand our ancestors.
Makes sense.
Their minds were not polluted and obsessed with selfishness the way it's today.
Yes. So it means that Vadi Raja would have told that if you go graze cows, that becomes a standard from where you can understand your...
I think it's sensible to think like that. So now coming back to your point, Krishna, he taught all of us to do swadharma. He says that swadharmana tamabhyarcha siddhim vindati manavaha. So swadharma has been given such a significance that it is that which authenticates a person. When a person does swadharma, whatever a person speaks has only as much value as much as the person is in touch with his own authentic self. And it is swadharma that puts that person in a position that he is able to deliver positively to the well-being of the world. Swadharma is done as a worship of God. And Krishna is especially teaching Arjuna that swadharma, the potential of swadharma is not to fetch you some livelihood or even any worldly benefit. Rather, the potential of swadharma is that it is your worship of me, it is your connection to me. And that's the way you come to me. So don't consider whether you have to, that the basis on which you're considering whether to fight or not and arriving at a decision that you won't fight is based on a wrong understanding of swadharma. Because you thought that swadharma is being performed to fetch me the kingdom. And that's why Arjuna is arguing, I don't want the kingdom.
But swadharma is not done to fetch the kingdom.
That is why Krishna is educating him, or rather reminding him in the true sense that, don't you remember? Because Arjuna has been trained in this all his childhood, directly by Krishna himself too, and by Vedavyasa, of course.
So Swadharma is not meant for livelihood or to earn a kingdom. No. Swadharma is to, remove the demons from this planet.
Swadharma for Arjuna.
Yes.
And everyone's Swadharma is of that high value.
Swamiji, we will do a separate podcast on understanding Swadharma. But my question is, I'm asking you a very gross question again. Yes. You are a Swamiji from Udupi. There is some other Swamiji from Sri Rangam. Somebody from Vrindavan. Commonality between all of you three Vaishnavas is Krishna's guna, rupa, nama, abhisheka, whatever agama, puja, aradhana. Everything did not change. Everything is still carried in this all 1,000 years. But cow has lost its value.
I think we over confession here that we indeed failed in a great way.
So you agree that
to give a course correction to people. In fact, when people encountered the agents who were trying to sell urea, they rejected them out of their own common sense. But then somewhere there was, because of in general, we could say metaphysically, the influence of Kali. But then there would be a physical way in which how it manifested, which may be different in different times and different areas of the country. But definitely there has been a major failure here on the part of the mathas and on the part of the Swamijis in guiding people, because of which the world is in misery today. I think they didn't do justice to the knowledge that they are supposed to be custodians of. I think they got limited to some kind of a grandiosity, some extent. But more than everything, I think that was an era of severe confusion when people didn't understand. Kings and Swamijis alike, who were in charge of guiding the society, remained confused. But what I would like to suggest is, rather than blaming them rather than calling it a mishap, let us see a continuity with our existence and theirs. And let us see that as a civilization, we have an intellect.
Yes, superb. And I'm very impressed that
we took time.
I'm very impressed, Swamiji, because you have that humility to say that it is grossly wrong on our part from all the Swamijis that, they did not carry it. But the problem today, why am I again asking, is not to show errors in Swamijis, but cow has become a political animal. You just have to cross a street here in an IT company, just randomly ask a person, what is Gomata? What is cow? They will say it is the so-called political stunt. Nobody, because the knowledge that you are giving in this podcast, if a person goes to a temple, he will get to hear Vishnu sahsranama in South India, and in North India, he will get to hear some Krishna bhajan. Yeah. He will own Krishna. and he will start chanting. But he will not have any reverence for what is his work, what is the course correction that he has done.
Yes. I
If
think
that
it is
is-
very significant that it's time that we have remained away from what Krishna is teaching us.
Yes.
And I think of all teachers, the most significant would be what Krishna himself wanted to teach us. Understanding that he is the person of great mercy, of great concern for all the living beings. And he would want to ensure by his teachings that the beings who are living in his creation live here happily. Because he has designed this world so that we can live here happily if we connect to him through our Swadharma. So when he perceives that things have departed from what they are supposed to be, it's natural for him to correct it. So when he has given that correction, if we are so audacious that we think that we know better, then I think there's a lot of factors playing a role here in the human beings playing such ignorance that they think that technology is going to save them. And I think that they think that they can replace the cow with technology. The fact that we have to understand here is every species is irreplaceable. You can't, nature is very complex. We can never understand even what one small species of life is doing. So when people think that our mechanized agriculture and our modern techniques, even we could even have rain harvest, we could even bring rains in the place where we want, and that's what makes the modern civilization proud. But the fact, I could say unfortunately, is this, that you cannot replace an earthworm, you cannot replace a millipede, and more so, you can't replace the cow. And there is no other way in which this function of the cow can be fulfilled. And if the blind faith in technology is leading us to not understand the complexity of nature and come up with a mature way of dealing with the complexity of nature, then I think it's very unfortunate. I think a civilization's intelligence has to be evaluated by its ability to deal maturely with the complexity of nature. So today's civilization, with all its reductionism, has laid claim that we have understood everything. So they think that they can meddle with things because of that presumption. And this presumptuousness has costed us a lot already. And unless we awaken now, I think our chances are too feeble, very faint.
Thank you so much for this explanation. But I want to end this podcast by telling you, you spoke to me all this in 2017, 18. These were the years when you were grazing cows. After becoming Swamiji.
I still graze cows.
Yeah, but that was that time where you had few cows and you were every day taking them for grazing. See, Swamiji, one thing I'm telling you, because I also come from a religious background. But when you told me about grazing cows, I did not understand. But the so-called modern Alan Savory's book, Brown Revolution book, that made me connect the dots that you have showed. So it means that this so-called Shastra that you are representing, so-called Matha that you are representing, or the institutions are themselves incapable to give a modern person the knowledge and the ethnicity of the activity, why grazing has to be done. Today for many people, grazing is a waste, they don't even have a perception of it, but they will all say, oh, Vishnu sahsranama should be chanted. If you go to South Indian, at least in the morning Suprabhata and the evening Vishnu sahsranama playing in the house has become common norm. That having that reverence to cow is decreased. So you have taken a very great mission, Swamiji. I'm highly impressed that you are...
I think this points at a very important thing, that this shows actually that we are maybe getting less and less connected even with what we are claiming to practice every day, such as the Vishnu sahsranama. I don't think we anymore mean what we say. Maybe we have lost our ability to focus when we say Gohito, Gopatir, Gopta, Vrishabhaksho, Vrishabpriyaha. How can we ever chant that and mean that and not be concerned about the cows and the earth? It can't happen. The only way that it can happen is we are doing it schizophrenically, in a way that
we want to see and not that we want some imaginatory.
Yes. Totally being disconnected from reality. And actually it's an influence of a demoniac way of thinking to render the world, the immediate world before us, as an illusion, and trying to force yourself to perceive a reality in something beyond this. I think the whole teaching that Krishna is giving in the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads are teaching us is to perceive the Lord here.
In this world.
Isha avasyam idam sarvam. Krishna is saying, the lakshana of jnana is, Krishna mentions that when jnana will enable you to see me in everything here. And Krishna is teaching this in multiple ways in the Bhagavad Gita. Yajnatva na punarmoham evam yasyasi Pandava. Yena bhutan yasheshena drakshasyatman yathomai. And Arjuna is also understanding that flow. He is asking God, Keshu Keshu cha bhaveshu chintyosi bhagavan maya. How to see you? And Krishna in reply, he is speaking of various sannidhanas within the world of our experience. So I think this is a point that we are missing. And I think that this is one point in which Vaidika, Sanatana, Dharma very differs from Abrahamic religions, in that Abrahamic religions don't specifically perceive the direct presence of God here. Of course, they understand that He is all-knowing and all-present in a different way, that He is present in a different world. All our childhood, I studied in a school of name Saint Aloysius, and we every day chanted a prayer. And that prayer went like, we chanted it in Kannada. It said, Our Father in heaven, in a different world. So you can understand that their meditation on God is as present in another world. But whole science of the Upanishads and the Gita is teaching us to perceive the Lord here. Even when we do Achamana, we are saying Keshava is Swaha, Narayana is Swaha. We are perceiving the Lord in us. And when we are doing an activity, even as much as speaking, Krishna says, Gachan, Swapan, Shwasan, Unmishan, Nimishan, Napi. Every small activity we have to perceive that it is the Lord who is making us do it and who is directly present here. So that presence of God, I think it's very pivotal. It's very crucial for us to actually, perception of the presence of God like that, I think it's very crucial for us to actually absorb and understand the message of the Shastras and practice it. So I think there must have been a gross disconnection because of which the said mistakes might have happened.
But I'm glad that again Swamiji is like you have come to do a course correction.
Like I said, it is the intellect of the whole civilization. I would not say that I am any better than those. Rather, I am able to understand that there's a mistake here because I'm standing on the shoulders of those people who stood by the confusion of those times. And we are them. It is we are them. They are now working through us. So if they are feeling this drive that no, this is what has to be done.
Beautiful. I'm highly impressed that you are at least trying to say that, they are working through you and, and you are saying that this course correction has to happen. Thank you so much, Swamiji, for this information. Thank you so much throwing us light on what Krishna has really done, making us understand that. Hare Sri
Krishna.